Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. The tournament season is getting ready to roll, and I've had a lot of questions from anglers asking me who I thought might qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series through the Bass EQ and whether or not I wanted to fish that or if I ever would fish it. And the reality is, I'll consider fishing any tournament that's out there. And I really, really did like the 2024 Bassmaster Open schedule. Like, if there was ever a schedule that would fall in my wheelhouse, that was probably a good one, considering they get a couple of Minnesota events. Well, I say Minnesota. They've got Leech Lake, which is Minnesota, and then they've got the Mississippi River out of La Crosse, which is on the border. Then there's some other lakes that I just absolutely love, like uh Lake Okeechobee, and they've got a really good schedule for my fishing standpoint. So yes, I would consider fishing them if I needed to consider fishing them, but for any angler that's looking to get to one of the top two levels, that is the route you got to go if you want to make the Bassmaster Elite Series. Just like if you want to qualify for the Bass Pro Tour, you got to fish the invitationals. In either case, not an easy thing to do, but there are some really good skilled anglers out there. So I figured I would go over some of the EQ names that I thought would qualify. From what I've seen, they've got at least 150 guys that are signed up to fish all nine. To qualify, I believe they have to be in the top nine out of those 150 some anglers after the whole season's over, and they've got 9 events. So it's a pretty grueling, long season for those guys. Not much money in it at all. I would be willing to bet you. I'd be willing to bet you almost everyone that does not qualify will probably lose money or break even, except for the tournament winners. So I'll say there's probably going to be 10 to 15 guys that actually make money fishing it. And when I mean money, I'm not saying winning back their entry fees. I'm talking winning money for the year, being in the positive after all travel expenses. So kudos to all you guys that are fishing those. I think it's a amazing dedication to the sport, to our craft. And regardless of whether or not you qualify for the Elite Series, it's a pretty honorable thing to do, in my opinion, to commit to fishing all 9 of those events. Now, having said that, I kind of hope a few of you guys drop out, because I am on the waiting list for a couple of those tournaments later in the year, so I wouldn't mind getting into those. But if I can't, that's okay too. That means that you guys are all fighting for a spot at the next level. But so what I did, my boys and I've got Hank and Duke, they're hiding under the desk right now. But they, along with myself, went through that EQ list, and we thought we would pick out who we thought would be the 9 anglers that would qualify at the end of the year. And actually, looking at my list, I think I've only got 8 anglers on here. So we'll have to throw one more random name in at the end. But let's talk about a couple of these guys. And this is no particular order. I don't think it really matters to these guys if they come in first or ninth. They just want to be in the top 9. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app, which will help you select the best fishing places in the lake with features like the lake level, the current flow, the top baits tool, which will help you select the best baits for certain locations throughout the lake. Whether that's a clear water, stained water, dirty water, it'll choose the best bait for that location, provide you with all the information like what structure, what retrieve, different reel, all of the information that you need to catch the fish. This is in the app. The cool part about this app, though, is it's not just based on areas. It does provide you with specific tournament winning data that has been collected to help you figure out your best choices for baits and locations for whatever region of the lake it is that you want to fish. On top of that, not only does the app provide you with best locations, it gives you water clarity as well. So maybe you're on a lake like Lake Eufaula, where there is a bunch of different water clarity located throughout the entire lake. This will help you identify the clearest portions as well as the dirtiest portions of the lake. Plus, the Deep Dive app has now added the wind effect map, which is going to take all of the different wind conditions for the past couple of days and show you what banks on the lake are being hit the hardest. They also have inflow points that show you different places throughout the lake where your water is being flushed into the lake through different ditches and creeks and rivers, providing you with high percentage places to fish and letting you know what parts of the lake are going to be the best areas after a rain. Check out the Deep Dive app to help you become a better angler. So the first one we saw on here, Cody Meyer. Cody Meyer is an absolute hammer of an angler who has been doing this for a long, long time at the top levels of the sport. He is moving from BPT over to the Opens this year. California angler, one of the most well-rounded anglers I know of out there. He, in my opinion, has zero weaknesses. I fully expect him to be right up near the top when it comes to qualification. Just a phenomenal angler. And kind of following along in those same shoes, we've got Dakota Yubert. Dakota Yubert just announced that he would also be moving from BPT over to the Opens, and I don't see anyone else really as qualified as Dakota. I mean, Dakota at this point is at the absolute top level of his game, has no weaknesses. Several of the tournaments kind of fall into his wheelhouse again. I expect to see him have another fantastic year. And if he doesn't qualify this year, I would expect him to qualify next year or in a year soon to come. I mean, he's just that good of an angler. And I feel the same way about Cody Meyer. I mean, Cody is a phenomenal angler. Both those guys have a ton of experience, which, in today's world, I feel like the younger generation are really well-rounded as well, but there's still something to be said for top level experience, and both those guys have it. So after that, we've got, what I would consider not necessarily the experience level of those two guys. Most of these other guys are newer to the sport, except for probably my buddy Miles Berghoff. Miles, he would not be happy if I said that he was still newer to the sport, but he hasn't been around quite as long as like Cody Meyer. But Miles has really good experience, and he's coming. I know he's extremely dedicated. He is he's had a really busy 2023, which I think sidetracked him in the first half of the year. But he still cashed 6 out of 9 events, so he had 6 top 40s, and I think he cashed in his last 4 for the season, and I think they all were like top 30 or top 25 finishes. And he's just fishing really good. He's chomping at the bit to get going. Miles will fish his strong suits, and as long as he can figure out how to make his strong suits work at each event, which based on the schedule again, I think he will. I think you'll see him up near the top for sure as well. And then we've got a younger angler on here, Easton Fothergill. It just wrapped up a big college win the other day. I think he started this year off down at the Harris Chain. I think he had like a top 5 finish. So he's fishing extremely well. He's really good with his electronics. And then keep in mind, he's from Minnesota, 2 tournaments up at that neck of the woods. I think he's going to do just fine. I think he has shown at a very young age that he has what it takes to compete at top level of the sport. And from that standpoint, I expect to see him around. Same thing for another guy, Emil Wagner, who I've known since he was, I think, probably 12 years old. He's probably in his mid-20s right now. He's a guide down on Lake Lanier, absolutely crushing the tournament levels. I mean, he's the BFL All-American. He's been crushing the Toyota Series. I mean, pretty much everything he fished last year, he was right near the top. He did not fish, I believe, any of the Opens, but I expect him to pick up where he left from, like the Toyotas and the AAA stuff, carry it over to the Opens. He's a guru with forward facing, can do pretty much everything. And when you guide every day or near every day on a place like Lanier, that can really make you a well-rounded angler. I mean, he's got good largemouth, good spotted bass, everything from dirty, muddy water there to gin clear, blueback herring, Great Lake. He's also a specialist on like Lake Hartwell. Just a really good angler. I expect him to have a phenomenal year as well. And then so I'm choosing a couple of Wisconsin anglers. One is Jacob Bigelow. He had a very strong year last year. I think he was in the top 9 or 10 going into the last event. He stumbled in the last event. very young angler, very good with his electronics, very dedicated to the sport. And he's one of these guys that just is pretty much traveling around the country fishing. So he's fishing every day. He's been fishing now. I mean, when I see him on social media, he is just all over the place practicing, and he's out there, and he's just really getting very good at what he does. He understands the opens game, and I think he's going to have an even better year next year. And if he does that, he's probably going to be inside of that cut. So I think he could be up there. Uh, Another one from Wisconsin, Adam Rasmussen. He's a guy that I've known for a long, long time. Um, Phenomenal angler. He's one of the best guides over in the Sturgeon Bay area, multi-species guide, has his captain license, kind of jumped into the AAA level probably in the last 2 or 3 years. He's had some really good tournaments, like a win on Wheeler Lake. So he's fishing the Bassmaster Classic this year. He seems to either really have very good tournaments, or he has a hiccup here or there. But I consider that hiccup being more of a issue with not having experience on those types of lakes, because when he gets back around to a similar type of lake, he generally does really well. And this being several years in now at this point, I think he's going to limit those hiccups. And if he can, I would expect to see him on the Bassmaster Elite Series here in a short amount of time. Phenomenal, phenomenal angler. And then we got two other young ones. One, Joey Nania. He's a guy down on, I think it's was it Martin Lake, down in Alabama. A very, very good angler. Man, he's another one that if he can prevent having that bad finish, one or two bad finishes for the year, he seems like the rest of the tournaments he's always up in that paycheck range, which is where you need to be to qualify. And he just has more and more experience. He's made the Classic. He's done lots of things. He's been a very, very well-rounded angler. And I expect to see him continue to do well. I don't think he's losing any of his ambition based on what I'm seeing. And then the last one we'll put in here, Tristan McCormick. So Tristan fished the MLF Invitationals last year, had a good season, but he's a young angler. Again, he just continues to get better. He's done a lot at the college level. Again, very, very much just all in on the sport. And from that standpoint, a lot of these young guys like him are just like, that's all they do is they fish. They're getting the experience. They're learning their equipment. And, I feel like he's an angler that, again, either has really good tournaments, and generally really good tournaments, and then has a few hiccups in the road. And those hiccups with these young guys, in my opinion, have more to do with just lack of experience on those types of lakes. They're going to learn from those lessons, and they're going to come back stronger. So those are the guys that I expect to see come the top 9 for the Elite Series berths. Now, having said that, there is a absolute ton of talent fishing this year on the EQs. Lots of former Elite Series pros and Bass Pro Tour guys who have been doing this for a long time, and any of them can put together a good 9 events. I'll probably have a bunch of buddies of mine that are mad that I'm not choosing them. But the reality is the talent level is just so good right now that, it wouldn't surprise me to see even a bunch of guys we've never heard of before, their first year fishing the opens, have a really good season. So let me know in the comment section, do you think I'm right or wrong? Some of the anglers that you're familiar with that you think could really have a very good year fishing the Bassmaster Open Series. With the seasons coming, I expect to hear a lot more about a lot of these names. I'm excited to get rolling myself, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, and maybe if you want to see me do this with some other circuits like the Major League Fishing Invitationals, let me know and I can go ahead and do that as well. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.